Good morning, everyone. This is the public hearing and public meeting Committee of the Whole regarding bills number 240179, 240180, 240181, 240182, and resolution number 240193. Ms. Lawcade, will you please call the roll to take attendance?
Councilmember Squilla, Councilmember Gautier, Councilmember Jones, Councilmember Young, Councilmember Driscoll, Councilmember Lozada, Councilmember Bass, Councilmember Phillips, Councilmember O'Neill, Councilmember Gilmore Richardson, Councilmember Thomas, Councilmember Harity, Councilmember Ahmad, Councilmember Landau, Councilmember Brooks, Councilmember O'Rourke, Council President Johnson.
Present. Thank you. A quorum of the committee is present, and this hearing is now called to order. Ms. Lawcade, will you please read the title of the resolutions?
Bill number 240179, an ordinance to adopt the operating budget for fiscal year 2025. Bill number 240180, an ordinance amending Chapter 19, 1800 of the Philadelphia Code entitled School Tax Authorization to provide for an increase in the tax that the Board of Education of the School District of Philadelphia is authorized to impose on real estate, and amending Chapter 19, 1300 entitled Real Estate Taxes to establish an equivalent reduction in the tax rate for the city real estate tax, and making technical changes all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 240181, an ordinance to adopt a fiscal year 2025 capital budget. Bill number 240182, an ordinance to adopt a capital program for the 6 fiscal years 2025-2030 inclusive. Resolution number 240193, providing for the approval by the Council of the City of Philadelphia of a revised 5-year financial plan for the City of Philadelphia covering fiscal years 2025 through 2029 and incorporating revisions with respect to fiscal year 2024, which is to be submitted by the Mayor to the Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority pursuant to an intergovernmental cooperation agreement by and between the city and the authority.
Today we will continue the public hearing of the Committee of the Whole to consider the bills read by the clerk that constitute proposed operating and capital spending measures for fiscal year 2025, a capital program, and a forward-looking capital plan for fiscal year 25 through fiscal year 2030. This morning, we will hear from the Streets Department, Fleets, Services, and Public Property, and then also, depending on our time for this afternoon, we will also hear from Office of Clean and Green Initiatives, Philadelphia Energy Authority, Sustainability, and City Commissioners. I'm going to revise one or two, but what I'm going to ask for the Streets Department to come up with the Fleets Department as well as Public Property to start off their testimony together, and members are allowed to ask questions of all three of those departments at the same time, and then I'm going to put, as I mentioned, Clean and Green Initiatives and Philadelphia Energy Authority and Sustainability together as well. Ms. Lawcade, will you please call the first witnesses to testify from the administration?
Kristen Del Rossi, Streets Commissioner, Joseph Rosati, Commissioner for the Department of Fleet Services, and Bridget Collins Greenwald for Public Property.
He must talk into the mic for they can hear you. Copy.
Welcome back, Bridget. Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, just want to thank you. Congratulations to Kristen Del Rossi, South Philadelphia. I want to also give a shout out to Joe Brasky, Interim Commissioner, Department of Public Property, South Philadelphia. Nice thing about it, but anyway. So, in all seriousness, I do want to congratulate all of you for your new positions, but we're going to go ahead and get started. And so, begin your testimony, and we will start with a line of questioning. Ladies first.
Good morning, President Johnson and members of City Council. I am Kristen Del Rossi, Streets Commissioner. Joining me today are Richard Montanez, Deputy Commissioner for Transportation, and Christopher Newman, Deputy Commissioner for Administration. I am pleased to provide testimony on Streets Department fiscal year 2025 operating budget. As you know, this administration has created a new Department of Sanitation, working under the auspices of the Office of Clean and Green Initiatives. We are excited for our colleagues and will continue to support their success. In the meantime, we are grateful for the opportunity to give our full attention to building and maintaining the world-class infrastructure that our residents deserve. In the FY25 budget, Transportation Fund request for the Streets Department is $76.5 million as reflected in the budget ordinance for our department. This budget follows a considerable appropriations increase over the prior 2 fiscal years to expand infrastructure improvement staff and resources supporting a massive investment in newly federally supported transportation infrastructure projects. Transitioning the city's entire school crossing guard program to streets, establishment of a new public traffic safety enforcement program, the formation of new in-house ADA ramp construction crew, and additional support for managing and regulating new outdoor dining establishments. This year's FY25 budget allows the department to continue building on these prior investments while working to achieve our Vision Zero goal to eliminate traffic fatalities and our mission to construct and maintain the safest transportation network possible for all multimodal users in the city. It is important to point out that existence of a new Transportation Enterprise Fund, which Council approved last year and is the focus of this budget's testimony, provides essential support, ensuring we maintain dedicated sources of funding to pursue our mission and goal. With this budget, the department feels poised and excited to build on our progress moving forward and to embark on our new, many varied and highly ambitious initiatives and plans. This includes continuing to achieve our Vision Zero strategic objectives, operationalizing efforts to improve traffic safety while capitalizing on the administration's recent substantial capital program investment of an additional $50 million for paving so that we can significantly increase roadway resurfacing operations this upcoming fiscal year for safer and higher quality roadways. Similarly, our Philly Streetlight Improvement Project has greatly accelerated the city's LED efforts and convert the entire city street lighting system to higher visibility and more energy efficient and effective LED lights. The department is on track to manage over $560 million in transportation public work projects over the next several years for much needed roadway, bridge, and traffic infrastructure construction and upgrades. We have successfully transitioned the school crossing guard program to the Streets Department and will work actively to increase the impact and effectiveness of this program through a Safe Routes to School strategy framework. And we will build on traffic safety and right-of-way enforcement efforts by enhancing the new public safety enforcement program and operationalizing new technologies to curtail illegal and potentially dangerous right-of-way concerns. The Streets Department and its employees look forward to providing yet another year of exemplary service, working to create and maintain a safe, effective transportation network. Our budget request today allows us to continue to pursue our objectives in this regard. We therefore request your favorable consideration of this budget request, and we thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today. The deputies, staff, and I are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning, Council President Johnson and members of City Council. I am Joe Brasky, the newly named Interim Commissioner of Public Property. With me today is Bridget Collins Greenwall, the former Commissioner of Public Property. I am very grateful to Mayor Parker for appointing me into this role last week because I am so new to the position. We thought it would be very helpful to you and to have the former commissioner up here as well, so we can both answer any questions you may have. It is a pleasure to appear before City Council today in support of Public Properties FY25 budget request. As you have our written testimony, which highlights the many accomplishments and plans of the department, I would only like to add one thing that is not in the written testimony about our team. It's nothing the veterans of the legislative body have not heard from former Commissioner Greenwald say before. The Department of Public Property has many outstanding employees that tend to fly under the radar, and I would like to acknowledge them publicly for their commitment to public service. I am very proud to work in a place where employees show such a genuine sense of care and commitment to their profession with the absolute mindset to get things done by following our core mission of responsibility serving the city's workforce and community by providing quality facilities and workspaces of which we are proud of. DPP staff are the unsung heroes of the city. Since the announcement last week, I received so much outreach and support from DPP telling me that they are here for me for whatever I need. It is nothing less than I expected from such a dedicated team, and it reinforced my confidence that we will accomplish great things together. Thank you for indulging me. We are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Just state your name and title for the record, and please begin your testimony.
Good morning, Council President Johnson and distinguished members of the City Council. I'm Joseph Rosati, Commissioner for the Department of Fleet Services. Joining me today are Dr. Kay Wilson, Deputy Commissioner for Administration, and John DeLeo, Deputy Commissioner for Operations. Thank you for the opportunity to present testimony in support of FY25 operating budget request for the Department of Fleet Services. The Department of Fleet Services FY25 general fund budget request is $56.6 million, which is $41.4 million less than FY24 estimated obligations. FY25 operating budget request includes $21.1 million in Class 100, $6.4 million in Class 200, and $29.1 million in Class 3 and 400. DFS has completed 31 years of its high school internship program. Since the program's inception in 1993, DFS has enrolled 168 high school students, 112 of which have graduated. 70 of these graduates have accepted permanent civil service positions with the city. In FY25, DFS plans to enroll 30 high school students into the internship program. Students enrolled in this paid internship receive $15 per hour. DFS encourages and focuses on hiring minority students, and historically 88% of the interns were hired from minority groups, which has reduced the racial disparity amongst our automotive technical staff. The Department of Fleet Services has 339 dedicated employees who work diligently to provide safe and reliable vehicles and equipment to the operating departments and work towards the mayor's vision of a safer, cleaner, greener Philadelphia with economic opportunity for all. Thank you you have my detailed written testimony. I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will start off our questioning. Department of Streets, and I know that's a core part of the budget request is going toward paving in the city of Philadelphia. So can you specify the actual amount that's going toward the paving and how many miles of street paving will be done? And the last part is, how are we making sure that the contracting work that we're going to be doing with the repaving is diverse and inclusive in terms of minority participation goals?
Deputy Commissioner Montanez up to answer that question.
Good morning. Good morning, Council President.
Good morning.
Fellow council members. My name is Richard Montanez. I'm the Deputy Commissioner for Transportation. Our goal this year is to get to 100 miles of paving, and our ultimate goal is within the 5 years is to get 131 miles. The Streets Department is trying to ramp up its crews, So we currently have 2 crews for paving, and we're trying to hire a 3rd crew. Hopefully by FY25 will be our 3rd paving crew. We're trying to do as much as we can in-house with minimum outside contracts.
And so, and just wanted to clarify, so most of the work that we're doing is in-house. We're not doing outside contracting, correct?
The only thing we contract out is the milling, the manhole adjustments, and the ADA ramps. We are trying, everything paving-wise stays in-house that we do from city capital funds.
Good.
We do contract out federal jobs, which is federal funds that the city get, and those are contracted out for federal paving.
And what's our plan to make sure that process, as well as the milling and the ADA ramps, is diverse and inclusive?
So we do put a 30% minority participation on all our contracts. I believe we can verify, but we've been exceeding that. I think we're at somewhere running around 35%. And we do make sure that we do abide by all the cities.
If you can get that numbers for, those numbers for the chair and for my members.
I'll get my staff to put those numbers together and send them to you.
Another question is, and again, I know this significant part of the budget is going toward paving, which I think is great, right? No one wants to have potholes in the city of Philadelphia, so I think that's awesome. But I also look at service delivery, and there's a significant amount of unfulfilled positions. I mean, to be honest, a lot of the departments that have come before us, we've seen that there's a lot of vacancy, right? But there's also still a request for a significant portion of the budget to continue service delivery. So what's the strategy and the plan to ramp up the actual manpower to actually get the job done in terms of service delivery?
Let me turn that over to Deputy Commissioner Newman.
Good morning, Council President.
Excuse me 1 second. Mike.
Is it working? Is this one? Good morning, Council President. My name's Chris Newman. I'm the Deputy Commissioner for Administration in the Streets Department. So primarily our strategy is to rely on our Future Track Workforce Development Program. As you know, we actually hired 206 people this year in the Future Track program. Those individuals, once they go into occupational tracks, will go into entry-level full-time civil service positions, both in Sanitation Department as well as the Streets Department Transportation Divisions. There's going to be, most of them will go into Sanitation, but a good number will go into Streets, and then we have a budget for another 200 next fiscal year. So for our lower skilled, semi-skilled positions, that is what we're relying on. For our professional positions, we've worked with the Office of Human Resources to create an intern to hire program where we have engineers and planners come in and do internships. The internship is actually the civil service assessment for them to get on lists, and that's been largely successful as well.
Awesome. Well, I'm a super fan of Future Track, so continue to keep going in that direction, whatever we can do to be supportive. For those who may or may not know, Future Track is a program that will give young people a pathway into the city, regardless of their background. And so we talk about addressing the issue of gun violence or public safety here in the city of Philadelphia. This is a prime opportunity for young people to get involved on a career pathway with self-sustaining wages and a career. So I'm definitely going to be supportive of those efforts as a way to not only increase our workforce, but also address the issue of public safety from a getting people involved with a job and a career perspective. And the last question is, when we talk about addressing the issue of potholes and the damaging of streets when it comes to construction, right? How are we coordinating, or is there a process where we are monitoring when developers come through, they tear the streets up, right? And the neighborhood is just left to kind of figure out who to call to get their street repaved, especially in areas where we see a significant amount of development. We see this happening, and you'll come out and you'll pave the street, and the street will be great, nice and smooth. Then you'll have like 4 or 5 developments on the same block, right? And I guess they dig up the street, and we sit and wait to kind of get everybody back on the same page to redo the block.
So DC Montanez is going to be answering that question, Council President.
Good morning, Council President and members of council. So the Streets Department uses a program called GPIS, Guaranteed Pavement Information System, where we put not only our 5-year capital plan of paving, but also PWDs and PGWs. Also, any private development that's happening gets inputted in there. That helps us create our paving lists, our 5-year planning paving list. There is a city law in place that anybody cutting a city street that has been paved recently within 5 years must repave that street curb to curb. After 5 years, they can just restore the trench, but anything that's done within 5 years, the street must be restored as if it was new.
Okay. And last question, I'll relax my time. And I don't know if it's L&I or the Streets Department, but who deals with when developers build and they take over the whole pavement and women with children or seniors with their shopping carts have to walk on the street? Is that L&I or that streets or that's combined? I'm not sure who will be responsible for that.
Are you asking if a developer closes the sidewalk?
When they close the sidewalk.
So
Yes.
that is a Streets Department permit. We are looking at the fees to disincentivize that. If the developer provides a walkway and all that, is actually a lower fee than when they do a full closure. So we are revisiting all our fees to make sure that we incentivize the pedestrian and disincentivize the full closures.
Is there a penalty when, 'cause you also have a lot of people who are disabled in
Yes.
wheelchairs, right? And again, I live in Point Breeze, so I'm talking from experience in terms of, certain times where me and my kids have to go inside the street while I'm watching somebody that's disabled have to go in the middle of the street as opposed to being able to go through the panel. So when they don't comply, what's our monitoring force? What are we doing to enforce the law in terms of holding those type of unscrupulous contractors / developers accountable?
So the Streets Department goes out and inspects and issues a CVN to the developer. The CVN's only $50. If we have multiple CVNs, then we involve license and inspections, and they come out and do a full inspection of the site.
Okay, that's all I have. The chair recognizes Councilman Jamie Guardiero.
Thank you, Council President, and good morning, everyone. I recently participated in the city's Vision Zero conference and was also present when the mayor signed the pursuant executive order, which emphasized the city's continued commitment to decreasing traffic fatalities. Council has also worked hard to expand the areas where streets can install traffic calming around facilities such as senior homes and rec centers where our vulnerable populations need it the most. But I am noticing the decrease in funding for Class 200 services related to this effort. So can you clarify what is the FY25 traffic calming budget and how much will these facilities, senior homes, rec centers, be prioritized?
Thank you for your question. I'm going to turn that over to Deputy Commissioner Chris Newman.
Okay.
Good morning, council member. Our Vision Zero budget is actually divided into capital program as well as operating. Under the operating fund, there's about 11.9 million total budgeted. And under the capital program, we have about 25.15 million.
Okay, and how do those numbers relate to the prior budget year?
Prior year, capital funds actually went up, I believe, $2 million. The operating funds did go down somewhat. There was 2 caucus infusions from last fiscal year for traffic calming, and that was not carried over into this fiscal year.
Okay, how will the budget proposal allow you to really make good on the commitment of reducing traffic fatalities, particularly around spaces like rec centers, senior homes?
Well, it was actually kind of an adjustment when you look at it. Instead of the Vision Zero for speed cushions, for example, being in our operating budget, it was primarily shifted to capital. So for the first time, we actually have a capital budget line item for speed cushions.
Okay.
Whereas last year, we had to kind of cobble it together from a variety of different sources in our operating budget. So we're still going to use some of the operating budget for speed cushions, about $1 million, but now we have a dedicated source in capital for it as well.
So will this budget allow us to do more than we have in the past?
I think it's about the same. So from, Mike Carroll just gave me some information. It'll probably be more because we'll be able to get matched federal capital funds because it's in capital. So that it'll allow us to do more speed cushions going forward.
Thank you. When can we expect the next round of speed cushions around schools to be installed?
Okay, that's a Deputy Commissioner Montanez question. I'm going to refer it to him.
Thank you, Councilwoman, for your question. We are actually in the process of getting the list together, and we just recently got a contract to start doing it. So we're actually starting. So our next 50 is in the works.
Okay, so can you, in terms of timeline?
We're actively going to be installing through the summer.
Okay, thank you. And I also know that Streets has launched a new front-facing platform where residents can submit traffic calming requests. When will you start implementing traffic calming requests that come through this new system? And how many blocks do you expect to be able to get to in FY25?
Thank you for your question. We are looking at traffic calming efforts while we're paving. So during our next round of paving contracts, we will be incorporating traffic calming into our contracts. That's the speed cushions. We are also, we received a 311 request from the residents for traffic calming, so we're actively conducting the studies. And when we find that different signs that are needed for the studies or whatever means and methods, we install them at that time.
I'm more so asking about our new front-facing system for residents. So we implemented this new, easier, hopefully faster system around getting requests for traffic calming interventions from our residents. Have we started using this new system?
We are using the 311. We are seeing an uptick in requests. We receive anywhere from 30 to 50 a day. I believe that in some neighborhoods we need to get the message out because some individuals do not use the 311 system online and when you call. So we just have to get our message out there more that we do have a way to put in a request that is a lot easier than it was in the past.
All righty. And my last question is for public property. By our own count, the city owns about 25% of the approximately 40,000 vacant lots here in Philadelphia. And, you know, when these lots are unkempt and unattended, we know that they could be magnets for crime and trash and become eyesores in the community where they exist. And, you know, I think we all believe that it's imperative that the city be a model for how we want other land and property owners to behave. So can you talk to us about the role that public property plays in making sure that these city-owned lots are returned, or one, clean and green and secure and returned to their best and highest use?
Sure. I don't know if the microphone's working here. All right. Thank you, council member.
This is your test for your first.
Thank you, council member, for the question. We do work with CLIP on taking care of our vacant lots, and we have we're going through our vacant lots to get more to see the numbers on it and what districts they are in. And we will be sending out crews to do evaluation of what is needed to the vacant lots and make sure it's upkept and taken care of.
What's the process of understanding the status of those lots in every place that they exist in the city? Like, what is public properties process for just keeping track of it, keeping track of condition, and going out to clean and green and secure lots where that is needed?
Right now, it goes through the llama system, which it's PHDC, and we're trying to come up with a plan to narrow down that map and really focus on and try to incorporate some pictures, like an interactive map, so we can actually go through it and see what is needed. And we're also talking about sending crews out to evaluate the sites and to make sure we're keeping up on the lands. And if anything's needed, we will send crews out to fix it.
Do we have a process where we proactively sort of survey our sites and we know the condition? And if so, how does that work?
Not yet. We've had some staffing issues, but since we've been hiring some people, and we have a nice crew gathered. So we're going to implement some new things that will help us out in that area.
Is that a priority for this budget? And if so, what resources will be dedicated to that?
It is a priority, and we actually have a special events crew that we use. So on the off season, they will go out, upkeep whatever's needed, and then even during their special event season, they will still be a part of taking care of any weed whacking or anything that needs to be done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilman Rulandow.
Thank you, Council President. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I'm going to take this in chunks, so I'm going to start mostly with streets. And I would love first to get a better understanding of the coordination of what happens when, I like that you said that there is the GPIS model where we have PGW, water, and private developers. We're supposed to know what's happening with development in the street at all times. First question is, can you make that public facing so the rest of us can know? And the second question is, so we have that information, and what are we doing with it, right? There's so many times that we repave a street, and suddenly there's a hole again. And the hole could have been because PGW didn't fill it properly or something like that. It's one thing to gather the information, and it's another thing to do something about it. So I'm curious, one, can you make it public facing? And two, what work are you doing with the information you have?
Thank you for your question. The GPIS system is currently used for the internal and external partners where the projects are put in. Once the projects are put in and projects then are implemented on the street, we have Street Smart PHL, which is a location where you can find our paved PHL. You can see where we're paving. I'm going to put one up for sanitation. Trash collection is also in there. Our permit PHL is in there, and snow removal is in there. So it's public-facing information for anyone who wants to know when their trash was collected, what permits are actively going on in their neighborhoods, and if we are plowing the snow and paving in those areas. So there's already a public-facing system in play. It's called Smart PHL, Smart Paved PHL.
Smart, wait, say it again.
I think it's Street, I'm sorry, thank you. Street Smart PHL.
Okay. And so do you do any follow-up when PGW had a project or the water department had a project to make sure that we know there's a large construction project to know that I don't know the technical language, but filled the hole properly so that it doesn't fall again in 6 months?
So basically, for plumbing issues, the plumbers will pull permits, and once their permit is done, it'll then turn over to us for us to top it. In some cases, which is finish the layer on the top with asphalt. In some cases, when there are locations out there, we may not be aware that someone was working in that area, but we definitely have some work to do in that area, but we do coordinate and communicate and top off the streets when they're necessary. Sometimes, depending on the weather or the conditions, if there's snow and we're plowing and dropping salt, they can sometimes break apart, so we would just have to go back and repair it again until the final repair is conducted.
Can you, so I hear that you give a CVN if, for example, on the sidewalks, if the construction is blocking the sidewalks. Can you notify L&I sooner so that they don't, the construction company is not going to care about a $50 ticket, but they will care if L&I starts coming out. Can you front end telling L&I and make them come out sooner for the blocking of the sidewalk?
I'm sure we can work with them on something.
Thank you, I like that. I also, so I had some questions about, let's see, wanted to, of course, I'm going to follow up on streeteries. You know, I'm an outdoor dining gal, love this, and wanted to make sure that, you know, we had this hearing, your office was present, wanted to make sure that we can, we're looking to streamline the process for small businesses. And the goal will be to make it more streamlined. And so are there any funds available to add some staffing or support to that area?
So the Streets Department currently has a streeter division. We have employees dedicated to reviewing and addressing the streeteries that come through our department. We have a unit.
What's the street department, do you have a plan to ensure that the implementation to getting a license is equitable for folks who don't have as much access to the internet?
Thank you for your question. I'm going to turn it to
Excuse me. Could you, for the microphones, just put one all the way on the right side and one all the way on the left side? And y'all can have separate mics because when they're close together, they're muting each other out. Thank you very much. Please proceed.
Thank you, Council President. I'm Mike Carroll, the Deputy Managing Director for the Office of Transportation, Infrastructure, and Sustainability. Just understanding your question, I think what you're trying to get at is the equity question with streetery. Yes. And so, you know, that's not necessarily going to fall squarely on Streets Department, but as the administration works with City Council to develop, you know, the policy for managing outdoor dining, I can assure you that equity is something that the Park Administration is going to want to focus on. We think it's probably going to come down to some changes from the legislation that City Council passed in 2022, or became effective in 2022. And, you know, we'll certainly work through the Streets Department, you know, L&I, all the departments to make sure that we're providing the feedback, the input that makes equity a priority. Thank you.
While you're here, can I ask a question that I believe is overarching for streets and fleet? I appreciate very much you having these apprenticeship programs of future track, and now we have a new class of folks coming into fleet who seems to be much more diverse, and I love that it's a pathway for folks to have good careers. How does that look on the supervisory level of all of these departments, and is there a path to excel to supervisor?
Hi, Joe Rosati, Commissioner for Fleet. Do you mean by how the supervisors manage, or the career ladder?
to me, diversifying a staff is a very intentional act. And I wanted to know if Fleet and Streets have thought through how to help support that path to supervisor so that we don't just bring people in on the ground level and they don't have a path to excel.
Well, in Fleet, in our department, you need to go through the different civil service levels in order to get to team leader, then supervisor, then district manager. So when the kids come in, they start out as high school intern. They do 2 years. They spend 1 day a week in the shop, full day. And when they're seniors, they spend 2 full days a week, and that's like their classroom. And so after the 2 years, if they're successful, they graduate from the program. They become they receive a civil service job as an automotive apprentice. Then they can promote from there. After they get experience and licenses, they can promote to automotive technician, heavy-duty technician, then to supervisory positions like team leader, supervisor, district manager, and so forth.
Do you know the demographic racial breakdown of your supervisors?
I don't have that with me, but my...
If you could provide it to the
deputy-
chair, and we'll provide it to the members.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll stop for you. Thanks. Thank you. One.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Jim Harity.
Thank you, Council President. Nice to see everybody again. Joe, I'm glad to see you up there, man. I remember coming to see you on Richmond Street years ago during the street administration, so it's good stuff to see somebody work their way up through the ranks. I guess you could see there's a lot of talk about the potholes because during the campaign season, there was a poll done that said the top 3 issues in Philadelphia, of course, was crime, schools, but number 3 by far was potholes. And being a highway worker by trade, I know that a lot of the stuff that they're calling potholes are not actually potholes. They're construction holes that were done by contractors illegally. So with that being said, we do have a bill going through the process right now that will give us the ability to find these bad actors and also suspend their license until they rectify the situations they have going on. But right now, how can we reduce the pothole response time other than increasing staffing? Right now, I think the current wait time is about 3 days or so, which I actually don't think is that bad. But I would like to know, other than staffing up, because I know we have a staffing shortage, is there any way that we can try to shave that a little bit?
Thank you for your question. We can look into that. Once we start paving more streets and we start to get to the 131 miles, that'll automatically start to shave itself because the streets will be in better condition and we'll see less of it.
Yeah, and also I know it depends on what else is going on, what's causing it. We had my whole street collapse because the new ADA compliance is 4 feet for the blocks on the pavement. Used to be 3 on my block, so right away on each side we lost a foot. And then the curb used to be 4 inches, it's now 8 inches. There's another 8 inches total. So we lost almost 3 feet off our block. So everybody has to park catty corner on the actual pavement. You used to be able to get away with just parking on the curb, which are 24 inches thick, but the pavement's only 3 to 4. So when you get a push on the pavement, it collapses the pipes going into laterals, going into the houses. Is there anything that we could do to kind of shave the pavements on some of these smaller streets in order to be able to actually fit cars to park regularly? Because when I asked about it, the thing I got was, well, they shouldn't be parking on that block. But in a neighborhood like mine, that's not an option. We have no parking as it is. Guess my mic cut out, like what I was saying. Is there any way we can cut anything off of that, or would we have to legislate that? Because I know it was ADA.
We have surveys of all our street widths. Essentially, when there is any type of reconstruction to your block, they are supposed to be restored in kind. If your block was 24-foot wide with 6-inch curbs, then it's to return back 24-foot wide with 6-inch curbs. In some cases, they may not, and I guess we would just have to survey that again to see. You said your block was reconstructed?
Yeah, my block was done probably about 10 or so years ago. It was a big, maybe even longer than that now. It was a big to-do too, because apparently there was a mistake with the bid, and they didn't actually have the money. The contractor didn't have it budgeted to pave it. They didn't know they had to pave it. So then that took about 2 years before they finally settled it, and they had to come back and actually pave it. But a lot of this stuff that's going on with like they had to redo my whole block. They had to come in and do the laterals. A couple of the people had insurance and were able to do it. But what happens is it keeps happening. So we had one neighbor where it happened 3 times in a month and a half. The insurance company paid for it the first time, the city, program that we have for laterals, paid for it the first time. The second time they denied it, he had to pay out of pocket. Third time, they actually fixed it again. But this is going to be an ongoing problem on some of these blocks where it's not actually wide enough. And when they did my block, it's messed up. It actually gets wider as you go down to the other end. So it's smaller at the one end, and as you go down the street, it gets a little wider as you go down, but still not wide enough to actually park regular on the pavement.
Deputy Montanez reminded me that the sidewalk widths are federally mandated.
That's what I was saying. So it's nothing we can do about it. That's the new ADA, and we're stuck with it. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Council President.
You're welcome. The chair recognizes Councilman Mark Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I ask questions, I'd just like to announce we have a guest here today, Ara Shakes, who's here today from New Foundation Charter School, 8th grader here, wanting to get involved in the civic process. So everybody give Ara a great round of applause for being here. Thank you, and thank you for being here. Obviously, streets and public property is 2 important businesses here in the city of Philadelphia, and I'm going to ask 2 questions, one to each real quick. One is on streets, and I know we said in the testimony of the budget that the streets are going to be repaved up to, is it 120 miles?
The goal is 131.
131 miles, and before we do that though, we still have restriping and crosswalks that need to be done from previous paving. So that'll be, I guess, done now through the spring to catch up for the paving that was not completed as far as the stripings.
We just recently started milling, and once the milling is done, the paving, the line striping will follow.
All right, there's been streets that already have been milled and covered already. So there's still blocks that have been done that don't have crosswalks or striping.
Oh, yeah.
Is that something that'll be done before the next project start?
Councilman, they just reminded me that the streets that that are being discovered were from last year's paving when we had to end the paving season and then re-pick it back up this spring. So we will be getting to those streets during this paving season.
Thank you. Thank you so much for
Thank
that. Public property, there's been a project going on, and we were just at the ribbon cutting for Ladder 11, opening up the new station down there in South Philly. In Port Richmond, Engine 6, they have a grant that reopened Engine 6. Do we know what the status is of that project, and if that'll be available this coming year?
Thank you, Council Member. Engine 6 is the construction's supposed to start on 4/29. And the work includes apparatus floor, new watch desk, new bathrooms, new flooring, roof repairs. And it's expected to last 12 to 15 months.
Okay. So next year, hopefully we'll have a ribbon cutting for Engine 6 to be in Port Richmond?
Hopefully, yes.
Thank you so much. That's been a project that has been waited for a long time. I really appreciate public property, and I do want to thank Bridget and Joe for all your diligence and work and always responsiveness, and also to Streets too, Kristen and Richie, and the team, Steve Lorenz, Mike Carroll, and them for always getting back to our never-ending requests for things to get done, and you guys have been great doing that, whether it's 2 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning. So thank you all for your work, and looking forward to continue working with you and in this. Keep up the great work. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, in that same spirit, I'm going to give a shout out to Rich Montanez and Steve Lorenz and Mike Carroll, because I do them weekend calls too. Like, especially when I hit a pothole, I see something like, yo, let me get out and take a picture now, and let me send it over to them so we can address this. But thank you as well. We do appreciate y'all. Next, the chair recognizes Councilman Nina Ahmad.
Thank you, Council President. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Question is about, I see that now the crossing guards are under streets, and that they seem to have been passed around from PPD, MDO, and I wanted to know what role you folks are playing in the safe passage effort, and if the crossing guards are connected to that effort at all to make sure it's there's safety around the schools.
Yeah, they are. Okay, you want to take it?
Good morning, Council President and members of council. My name is Richard Montanez, Deputy Commissioner of Streets. I'm assuming you're asking about the project or the work we got going about safe routes to school, where the Streets Department, Police Department, School District, and School Police are all working together to create safe passages. Yes, we are all part of that. The idea would be to utilize all our resources to disperse them among safe corridors and letting everybody know that that is our preferred walkable way to school for all the students.
Is there I don't know who's the lead in this project, but is there a timeline of where all these safe corridors are set up? Are they across the city, or what's your role in
So we're
that?
currently in the planning stage with Kelly Yemming, she was Officer of Complete Streets and she just changed her name, so I apologize. Multimodal Planning Office. And so we're getting all the data together and we'll be putting all that and coming out to council.
So that budgeting for that is included in.
There is some budget to implement some corridors this year, yes.
And so, and crossing guards will be a part of that.
So the crossing guard, yes, and as part of the process in the Streets Department, we've been ramping up. We're up to 800 person? We're at 739 crossing guards right now. The next class, I believe it begins in 2 weeks. So we are constantly hiring, and we're trying to get to the goal of 1,000.
Oh, great, okay. The next question is about, you're requesting 820 positions funded through the Transportation Fund. Are these an overlap with the cleaning and greening space? Like, are you sharing people, or where exactly are these 820 positions going to be?
I'm sorry, 820 positions for?
Through the Transportation Fund is being allocated for 820 positions.
Good morning, Council Member.
Good morning.
So effectively, the two organizations have been split apart. Those 822 positions are under the Transportation Fund, specifically in the transportation divisions of the Streets Department. There is some overlap. So for example, Office of Clean and Green has some quality of life services that they're responsible for that, of course, what we do in transportation overlaps with Office of Clean and Green. So there's going to be a lot of coordination between the two sides, but technically they're split.
So these 820 are under these are your hires?
Correct. They're not part of Office of Clean and Green.
Got
Correct.
you. Okay. So there's so much going on now with so much overlap. It's just a matter of how we're optimizing that overlap to deliver, of course, for our constituents. So thank you for that. I have a question for the public property. I see there's an increase of 13.5 million in your 286.5 million budget. And this seems to be due to increase in SEPTA contributions, 15% state match. So what is that like, and in terms of coming out of class 200, is that, that's a purchase of services? I'm not clear what that is.
It's not, it actually comes from the state. It's a formula by the state.
It comes from us.
It comes from us. It's a state,
Requirement.
it's state manager, yes.
So I'm just curious why it comes out of purchase of services. Like what are we expecting SEPTA to do X, Y, Z for getting that money?
It's just the county match.
So when you do a match, you can still have a requirement of what SEPTA will do for that money.
You want to answer this?
Hello, Bridget Collins Greenwald, here to support public property, former Commissioner of Public Property. So it's a state, it is the state's, it's the city's match for the county of Philadelphia, right? So we match whatever the formula says we match. So we don't figure that out in public property, but someone does, I guess.
But do we ask any questions of SEPTA?
So they provide us a list of all the projects that they work on that are paid for with this money. So we get it on an annual basis.
So it's, you're just classifying it under purchase of services?
Yeah.
Because it just has to go somewhere?
That's just, yeah, I guess
Okay.
where the class code we put it in. But yes,
All
they
right.
do provide us information every year.
Okay, and then the question was about a decrease, right, due to transfer to program of the newly formed capital projects. So those are 140 budgeted positions that went over, or how can you explain that piece? What went to the new capitals project?
So it's not 140 positions. I think it's about 36. Joe just told me it's 36. So they went from our capital, the Department of Public Property's capital program division, which was a piece of public property, and now are going over to the newly formed capital projects office.
You're going to still have your own capital project segment?
No,
that's
from
all
my
going
understanding is the capital projects office will contain, it'll be centralized, so all the
all
capital
go
projects
over
will go there.
All right. Thank you, Council President.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
The chair recognizes Councilmember Phillips.
Good morning, Council President. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Streets and Public Property and Fleet for your testimony. I want to begin by asking a question around the no truck parking legislation. Recently, in the city of Philadelphia last year, we banned tractor trailer parking in the city of Philadelphia, and that requires that basically in every area where there's a 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. zonage sign, there should be a no truck parking sign and general sign. What are we doing to make sure that we have enough not only signs, but also to make sure that wherever there's a no truck parking sign, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. sign, that is being replaced with no truck parking altogether?
If you send us the locations, we can get them replaced. We're actively replacing signs as we go through, but the 6 to 6 are still out there.
Great. So we send you the locations. How quickly are you able to get those done? Because I was hoping that maybe you already knew where the locations are, so we don't have to like go around our districts looking for them. But if possible, like, yeah, how quickly can you get those up?
We are actually partnering with PPA, and they're doing them within 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you. The next question that is also really important is that there's, as to follow up on Councilman Jamie Gaudier, there is a number of residents in the city of Philadelphia who are requesting speed calming measures, particularly speed humps in the city of Philadelphia. Is it possible for you all said you're getting 30 to 50 requests a day. We wanted just to know the number of how many you could possibly do a year, because if the residents are feeling like they're being ignored, then is there a way that your department can work on a mass communication about the process of when they're going to finally get not only a study, but potentially get their speed humps installed, but also do a mass communication to those who receive who do the petitions and so forth for the study to be done, or from your department's end to let them know that they're not being ignored, right? And that they're, so forth. How are we doing a better communications plan to them?
We are talking internally about a transparent process for the external people, for the residents, and anyone who puts in a request. We heard your concern when we were at Vision Zero, and we are talking internally about how we can make that a reality. Any time available, we have available funds and projects. We kind of look at it from a holistic approach to incorporate whatever we can under the projects as the funding is available. So like I mentioned earlier with our paving, we are actively looking at our next round of paving that goes out. We'll incorporate the speed cushions as we're paving the corridors and things like that. So we're coming up with ideas for projects as funding is available.
Thank you. Do you have a sense of maybe when we'll have maybe, a response on that?
We'll talk internally and I can get you a response.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The next question I just wanted to that was important. Enforcement officers in the city of Philadelphia, could you please provide the current number of public traffic safety enforcement officers? Additionally, could you provide an explanation of the hiring process for these officers and any community engagement initiatives aimed at filling these positions?
Good morning, council member.
Thank you.
We are budgeted for 20 public traffic safety enforcement officers. We have 14 right now. We've had some retention issues over the years since the program got started last spring. We've hired probably over 30, actually, but lost quite a number as time has gone on. What we've done is we've looked at the pay rate for the public traffic safety officers and noticed that there was a discrepancy with other enforcement officers in the city of Philadelphia. Working with the Office of Human Resources, we've since corrected that, so they've gotten about a $5,000 increase in pay fairly recently, which we think is going to help with the retention issue. We are also pairing the public traffic safety officers with our Future Track program that I mentioned a little while ago. So we created an occupational track in partnership with the Office of Human Resources where individuals will be able to go from Future Track into an occupational track, get trained for 3 months, and then if they're successful within that 3 months training, they'll be able to get on the civil service hiring list for public traffic safety officer. We think we'll be able to fill all of our positions and more next fiscal year as a result.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that, that's incredibly important. Obviously, we can't get as many speed cushions out. There's which we really want, the residents really want, the public traffic and safety enforcement is going to be key. And 20, still not enough probably around the city of Philadelphia. So I'm just trying to figure out how we can support our hiring process for that and also making that a bigger line item in the budget. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilman O'Rourke.
Thank you, Council President. First question will be for Streets Department. Ms. Rossi, blessings, good morning. I care deeply about making sure that our streets are safe. I'm sure I'm obviously not the only one here. More particularly for pedestrians, for bikers, for public transit users, drivers. And while I get the joy and challenges of car ownership, I do see also this is an opportunity to meet the clean and green moment by trying to get more cars off the road. So, more commuting by foot, bicycle, public transit makes our city safer, reduces carbon emissions, increases foot traffic for small local businesses. I can bear witness to that, especially in light of being named the most walkable city in the U.S. by USA Today, which I thought was pretty interesting. What is the street department's planning to do? What are you all planning to do to incentivize Philadelphians to use cars less and to walk, bike, and use public transit more?
I will turn that question over to Deputy Commissioner Montanez. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Thank you, council member. My name is Richard Montanez, Deputy Commissioner.
Blessings, Deputy.
So we are working with the Philadelphia Parking Authority. One of the things we are looking at is increasing meter rates within the city. This is something that has not been done in about 10 years right now, so trying to increase it. The other thing we're looking at is similar to other cities, which is active dynamic pricing. So I don't know if you've ever been to San Francisco, but San Francisco is one of the ones we give as an example. If you go to the stadium to watch the Giants, the meter rate is at $15 an hour around the stadium during an event, but non-event days when there's nothing happening, it drops down to 50 cents an hour because the need's not there. And so therefore they try to incentivize people to come visit and use non-event days to come in. So we are looking at ways to kind of and make it easier or make it our meters a little more difficult, more available for people to come. And Director Carroll would like to add some more.
And thank you, Deputy, for your response.
Good morning. I appreciate the Deputy Montanez's response. I just want to add a little bit in terms of switching people to other modes. And so you may be aware that we're working from the transit plan, Philadelphia's transit plan, which we put out a couple years ago, and also the Connect Transportation Strategy. And the real focus there is to work very closely with SEPTA. And as everyone's aware, you know, we're doing what we can to get SEPTA back on its feet in terms of its financial stability, also trying to make sure it's a safer mode of transportation for people since there's been concerns about that. And in general, our feeling is we get more and more back to normal coming out of the pandemic. We're going to rely more and more on public transit. So on the city side, really coordinating on that partnership, expanding opportunities in terms of the availability of bus routes for people, making it more reliable, making the buses more frequent, doing things in terms of just like the signage so people really coming out of town or whether they lived here really understand where things go. All of these strategies we think tend to lead to people choosing to use transit, walking to transit. You know, biking is another thing that we're focused on as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving right along to clean and green initiatives, including sanitation. Director Williams. Blessings to you, sir.
Good morning, Director Carlton Williams, Director of Clean and Green.
Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
The Clean and Green Initiative, it's an ambitious new citywide initiative, and that is absolutely awesome. I think that we have all expressed our joy about what's happening. But I will say that successful ambition requires a plan. As it stands, we find the Clean and Green's organizational hierarchy a bit unclear, which is critical for a multi-agency and multi-organizational approach to deliver on its objectives. When could we expect a final Clean and Green strategic plan?
Great, thank you for your question, sir. My testimony will highlight that in a moment to talk about the intergovernmental cooperative relationship that we have with multiple agencies. I can give you a brief summary right now. Our office is directly responsible for sanitation, CLIP, and TCB, but we work with so many others, and I'll be able to explain that a little further when you hear my testimony.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you, Councilmember.
You're welcome. Good to see you too, Carl. Before we go into the second round, you're on. We're still in the first round for Isaiah Thomas. I just had a question. Are y'all replacing no truck parking signs, the ones that go from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. to just total no truck parking signs? Because in the southwest part of my district, we've been working very closely with Parking Authority, Richie Laser, to get these cars, like, they park in these tractor trailers like everywhere, like all over Essington Avenue, all along Lindbergh Avenue. And the neighbors are going like totally bonkers about how it's bringing down the quality of life. I don't know where these trucks are coming from, but what's our strategy? Are we replacing them with just no truck parking signs, period? And then also, what type of towing apparatus do we have that in the event that people say, whatever, you're not going to tow this tractor trailer, right, or the back of the tractor trailer, so we're just going to park it there anyway. what type of equipment do we have to say, you know what? We got your number. We still towing that too. I need to understand that. Because I know we in Rittenhouse Square and we park tractor trailers and just leave. They will be moved tomorrow. So I want to make sure the Eastwick part of my district have that same level of attention and enforcement that we're doing downtown.
Thank you, Council President, for your question. I'm just going to say something before I turn it over to Deputy Commissioner Montanez. I know we will be changing the signs throughout the city, and we are also partnering with PPA with the towing efforts, but I'll let Deputy Commissioner Montanez elaborate.
Yes, Council President. So as Commissioner Rossi said, we are partnered with the PPA to change all the signs. The Philadelphia Parking Authority has also bought a second wrecker. So now they have the capability of towing the big semis, tractors. To date, there's been over 200 impounded, and they continue to impound them on a daily basis. As a matter of fact, when we were with Director Williams doing 29th Street, the PPA impounded a truck that day that was out on the street in that road.
Okay, great, thank you, I appreciate it. Chair recognizes the council member. Well, let me go back for the record. For the record, I just want to acknowledge the presence of members, Councilmember Driscoll, Councilmember Isaiah Thomas, the chair of streets, Councilmember Jeffrey J. Young, and also, that's it for the moment. The chair recognizes, Councilmember Mark Squilla, for the record. Chair recognizes Councilmember Isaiah Thomas.
Good morning, Council President. I want to start by taking a page out of Councilmember Squilla's book and recognize somebody that I have in council today. I'm always bringing young people, but today is special because I got my namesake here. Oh man, he left. Oh, he hid. Isaiah Jr. is here with me right now, so super happy he's here. This is his first budget testimony, so he'd be much rather playing video games, but it's all good, right? It's good math here today, so we'll see how it goes. I also want to do some thank yous. I'm not, as the person who was getting all the pothole calls last term at council, I just really want to just take a moment to just say thank you to Mike Carroll. A special thank you to Commissioner Carlton Williams. A lot of people don't know that Commissioner Williams, this government stuff was cool and all, but, uptown, Commissioner Williams is known as Coach. I'm sorry, Council President, but no, Commissioner, I truly appreciate what you do for the neighborhood that we live in. But more importantly, you're somebody who, like Council President said, you take that picture, you grab that constituent issue, and you can almost be assured that people could get a response. And I think for us in the work that we do, a big part of our job is delivering services. So I'm very appreciative of some of the things that's in the mayor's budget this year, but I do have a couple questions. So the pothole thing that is being brought up. In your testimony, you say that potholes are going to be fixed within 3 business days. Is that what we want to do moving forward? Is that our goal moving forward? Because I think we all can realistically agree that that's not what we're doing right now. So are we saying that our goal moving forward is to have potholes fixed in 3 business days? Because the mayor has requested a lot of money for streets and street paving, and I'm wondering, will you be giving us some of that money back? Will you be able to spend all the money that the mayor is requesting for street pavement? That's a lot of money. And also the 3-day goal, is that moving forward? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Thank you for your question. Our goal is to get towards limited potholes. The more we pave the streets, the less the potholes, the more we pave the streets and maintain the streets, the less the potholes will appear. Once we get into a cycle where we are paving the streets on an active cycle of their life cycle, we will start to minimize the effects of the potholes.
But the 3-day goal, is that the future, or are you saying that that's how it goes now?
That's our current goal.
Current goal, excellent. Do you think you'll spend all the money the mayor's asking, or you think you're going to end up giving us some of that money back?
we're going to spend all the money.
All of it? Okay, y'all said it.
We are going
Smart response.
Okay. For a couple years now, we've been saying that 12% of the roads produce the majority of our car accidents. In your testimony today, 50% of deaths and serious injuries are on 12% of roads. Why? Why are we, this has been 2 years and it's still 12% of roads. Why are we now not at 11% or 10%? Why are we still at the exact same percentage of roads that we were a couple years ago when we did make significant investment in infrastructure and investing specifically in the corridors that produce the most fatalities and the most car accidents? Why haven't we seen that number move from 12% to 11% or 10%?
Thank you for your question. I'm going to turn that over to Deputy Managing Director Mike Carroll.
Thank you, Councilmember Thomas. So that's the statistic, you know, to be clear, is not about the number of people total who are being killed in this city. It's about where they're being killed.
Correct. Yeah, I'm agreeing.
So
I'm saying, why haven't we seen any modifications to those roads? Because when we discussed this before, we talked about the fact that the biggest issues in these intersections is infrastructure.
Yeah.
And so I remember us saying, well, if we're going to invest in infrastructure the way that the previous administration was asking us to, that we have a targeted goal of the intersections that produce the most accidents. So I'm just saying, why haven't, like, has any intersections been fixed over the last couple of years? Are we still looking at the same 12% of roads, or are they new roads? Have it shifted? Like, why help us understand, why is it still at 12%?
So it is shifting, and we're being successful. And where we're doing our projects, we're reducing the fatalities by about 30% and the crashes by about that same amount too. We're chasing the problem around though, and so what it is there's always going to be a concentration of streets where most of the crashes are taking place. There's always going to be a concentration.
Give me an example of a road that was in the 12%, or intersection that was in the 12% a little while ago that's no longer there because of the work that we've done.
Yeah, the best example is Roosevelt Boulevard. So when we
I don't think y'all can get credit for that.
Well, that is a project that we were involved in, figuring out where the speed cameras go, figuring out what, I'm sorry.
So I shouldn't have said that. You 100% get credit for that. That was the wrong way of saying that.
Okay.
I'm talking about specifically looking at infrastructure investment, right? So for the record, again, Roosevelt Boulevard is a great example. You did an excellent job with that. And my last question was going to be about the cameras that's coming and where do you recommend they go. But I'm thinking about our investment in infrastructure and why haven't we seen, I'm thinking about West Philadelphia. When I listened to people out there, they were adamant about some of those intersections. I don't want to start naming intersections, but people were adamant about intersections in West Philadelphia that they felt like were part of the high injury network. Like, is there an intersection that was on a high injury network 2 years ago that's no longer in the high injury network?
Yeah, so your colleague might want to talk about Cobb's Creek.
There you go.
So we could also talk about the slow zones that we have in the 9th District. And
can you get Council President those intersections?
Yes.
Can we because I want to be clear, I'm not trying to beat you up and say that the work hasn't been done.
Yeah.
I'm saying that we haven't done a clear job of communicating some of our success stories. And I think that's what we need to get on the record, is for people to understand that we recognize that we have this crisis as it relates to hit and runs, but we also need to communicate some of the success stories that we've had based on the work that has been done over the last 2 years since we've been on this journey.
So we will certainly get that information. I do want to say one thing. When we look at these statistics, we really don't want to go year by year. We want to talk about 3 years, 5 years of data, because the crashes go up and down, and we want to make sure we've seen real results we can be confident in. But we'll get all that data to you guys.
Thank you. And Council President, I just want to, so the tone is clear. I do commend you for the work that you've done. I do think that is very noble, and I think that it has saved lives. And I'll come back one more round of questioning, Council President, if that's okay, just to talk about the speed cameras that's coming, and I'll be done. Thank you, Council President.
Absolutely. Is there a rebuttal? A point of information.
Point of information, I just wanted the majority whip to know that we're working hard on traffic safety in the 3rd District. But even though there's a lot more to be done. So Cobbs Creek Parkway, we were able to work with the Streets Department and PennDOT on major traffic safety interventions. We reduced speeding on that corridor, I think by 90% or something of that nature. And that was after the tragic death of Avante Reynolds. But we also have done major road diets on Walnut Street, Chestnut Street. So you can give the 3rd District all the traffic. We welcome working with you guys to make our streets safer. And I appreciate the Majority Whip's
Chair
enthusiasm.
recognizes Majority Whip Thomas.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the point of information. And I think what Councilmember Gaudier has done in the 3rd District, I'm sure there are other districts across the city where we can have some of those victory laps. So I think it's important that when we come into council and we, criticize you guys for things that we feel like need to be done to improve the quality of life issues in the city of Philadelphia, it's important that we have folks like Councilmember Gaudier as well as you all who take the victory lap when we get some of these things done. So the public needs to understand that the 12% road problem still exists, but the problem has shifted, and there have been some intersections where we have corrected some of these issues, but unfortunately, new issues have presented themselves. Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to put that on the record, and again, thank you, Councilmember Gaudier, for the work that you've done.
You're welcome. The chair recognizes the Chair of Streets, Councilmember Jay Young.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Just have a few questions for the Streets Department. First question is regarding the LED lights. I was driving around my neighborhood last night, and I realized it's dark as hell down there. Like with those orange lights, it's really dark, and I live in a high crime area. So just wanted to know, like, is it possible for district council members to get a schedule of when the LED lights will be changed throughout the city? Because again, as I'm driving through my community and my neighborhood, again, it's dark. It's pretty dark, and so it's more of a statement to that. So if it's possible for us to get a schedule and to work with your office on identifying some of the areas that we see are in higher need of these lights being placed there sooner rather than later. Second comment is regarding a lot of ponding I'm seeing in Fairmount Park. And I know it's not my district, but I'm driving through there often because the Please Touch Museum is there. I take my kid there around those the roundabouts, right? Last week I saw ducks floating across the street where the roundabout is because of the amount of rain that happened and the amount of flooding that happens in the park. The ducks literally were holding up traffic because, to them, that's a pond there. So can someone speak on that infrastructure that's there and why that is occurring every time it rains?
Thank you for your question, Councilman. I first want to respond on your LED comment. We have a website that has a 2-week look ahead that is available of where the contractor is in the area. It is www.philly.streetlightimprovements.com/map. It's an active map of where they are with a 2-week look ahead. As of April 8th, we've already installed 28,041 fixtures. We're 8 months into a 24-month project. So I just wanted to give you some of that information. And there is no drainage system in that area. It's the stormwater management that is supposed to be absorbing the water.
It doesn't. I mean,
we were there.
I just think that it's a bad design. Honestly, I think it was poorly designed. Regarding the LED lights, though, now I understand, you have this website that, that allows a 2-week look ahead to where they are, but the question was, are we able to, help the Streets Department identify areas that are of a higher need for these particular lights than what your schedule may say? Because again, in certain areas, particularly in my neighborhood, again, I don't live in one of the nicest parts of the city. I live in probably the roughest part of the city. And I think that we need to, in order to help mitigate some of the violence that's happening in this community, we just need to it needs to be a little bit brighter. I mean, I'm bounded by, 3 housing authority facilities in my community. It's not, again, it's not all peaches and cream where I'm at. So I really will hope that we have the ability to talk with your department to get an understanding of where we see a higher need for these brighter lights. Second question, another question I have is on construction trenches. Now I do know that as developers are putting in utility lines and things like that for their properties, streets department prefers to come to fill those potholes because you may do it better than some of the developers have been doing. Can you tell us what the schedule is? If I'm a developer, I dig a trench for utility lines. What's the schedule? How far after I complete my job as a developer does the street department then come to fill that trench in? Because we're driving around the city, and at nighttime, there's no sign up or nothing indicating that there's a trench there. We're blowing out our axles, hitting these trenches. So can you speak to how the timeline on the streets department refilling those utility trenches that are being dug by developers?
There's a 30-day turnaround
30 days. Ooh.
for ditches.
I've seen some much longer than 30 days. So, in front of my chief of staff house at one point, I was dropping him off during the campaign too. For literally about 4 months, this trench was been in front of his house, and we hit it almost, every time.
We can come talk about this.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I heard the bell.
You're welcome. We have a second round too. I just had a question as a follow-up to Member Young. In regards to the new LED street lighting initiative, how are you working in partnership with the Philadelphia Energy Authority? Because they also have a contract to put up LED lights, and according to the Philadelphia Energy Authority, they have a rubric to specifically target some of the high crime areas as a need first regarding the lighting. And so it seems like there are two different initiatives going on, where there's a plan on the Philadelphia Energy Authority side, and particularly high crime areas. And what I'm hearing here is we have a schedule to just do lighting in general. So is there co-coordination with these two initiatives?
Thank you, Council President, for your question. It is actually the same project.
It's the same
Streets
project.
Department is partnering with the Philadelphia Energy Authority and the Office of Sustainability.
Yes, okay.
Where we are looking at high injury network, high crime areas first.
Yes, okay.
But internally,
the member recognizes Member Young.
Thank you, Council President. And I think the issue that I'm having is that the first thing that the administration says, and I believe that it's important as well, but it's the they're focused more on the pedestrian issues, right, in certain communities. And I feel like the violence that we're experiencing in our community should take precedent over the areas where it may be of more of a pedestrian concern, because those are things that the folks in those communities are living with every day. And I think just having it a little bit brighter will just change the mood of a community as soon as those lights come in. So I would like the administration to change if we can flip that priority to be high crime and then the active pedestrian areas, I think that we'll see a greater result.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that those two initiatives are working simultaneously, because I know we do have Philadelphia Energy Authority coming up, and that was part of. Now, is there additional requests for lighting under streets versus the request that's coming for lighting under Philadelphia Energy Authority?
street lighting is actively installing LEDs as well.
Okay, all right, good. But is there additional requests in terms of funding for street lighting? Not at all?
I don't believe so.
Okay, just wanted to check that for the record. We're now going into our second, I'm sorry, Cindy. Your light just came on.
It just came on.
It just came on.
What kind of system we got going on here?
I don't know what's
What
going
kind
on
of
back there,
City of
sir.
Philadelphia
You know, taxpayer
equipment? Who's in
dollars.
charge
You
of
know
this
what I mean?
equipment?
The Honorable Cindy Bash from Northwest is acknowledged. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
Good morning, almost afternoon, everybody. Almost afternoon. I just wanted to start out with a round of thank yous. I wanted to thank let me see. I want to make sure I got it right. Office of Clean and Green Initiatives, Carlton Williams, you know, who between him and Keith Warren, I think I saw Keith earlier, and Crystal Jacobs, I think I emailed them every single day around trash and sanitation concerns, and they're incredibly responsive, and I just really wanted to publicly shout you out and say thank you because, you know, I know when you see that early morning text or late night text sometimes, you're like, ah. So thank you so much for all of your assistance. I also wanted to give a shout out to my guy Farouk because he's always on the job. I also wanted to thank Bridget, of course, you know, who we've had a great working relationship with over the years. And I'm going to ask you if you could help us clarify your position now, because we know you do all, okay? We know you can do it all. So they had you on the, you know, the sheet we have here says that you're public property. We know you're L&I also. So, you know, you could just take over the whole thing.
Sure. I'll be up here tomorrow at council. You'll see me sitting behind you. No. So when the testimony was submitted, I was still doing the dual role of Commissioner of L&I's Quality of Life, as well as the Commissioner of the Department of Public Property. As of Thursday of last week, Mayor Parker announced that Joe Brasky has been announced the interim Commissioner of Public Property. But since it was just Thursday, I figured it probably wasn't really fair to just have Joe sit up here, although he's doing fantastic, I think, if everyone's watching him.
Well, listen,
that's it. That's what I'm doing.
Well, look, like I said, you can do no wrong in my eyes, and you do a great job. So you know, and also, Joe, listen, big shoes to fill, but I've heard fantastic reports on the work that you do, and look forward to working with you as well. So that's very exciting.
I appreciate it. It's an honor. Thank you, Councilmember.
Absolutely. And also I want to give a big shout out to Rich Montanez, who is always, you know, hearing about how every single block in the city of Philadelphia needs speed bumps. And he does his very best to try to accommodate every single request. And really your entire teams, I mean, like you guys really help make the city work. It doesn't work without all of the people who are here today, and I just really wanted to point that out. So a big thank you. I wanted to go back a little bit and speak to some of the concerns about traffic and safety, and specifically around hit and runs. So I think it's the 2700 block of North Broad Street is an incredibly dangerous block. And within, I would say, a 3 to 4 month period, there were probably 3 fatal hit and runs on that block. And it's the way the street sort of arches and curves. And if you're coming northbound from Center City up to Cheltenham on that side of the street, when you get to Broad and Lehigh, the intersection, you cannot see over the top of that intersection. And so if someone is crossing the street right beyond that crosswalk or in the middle of the block and you're speeding, you're going to hit them because you really can't see them. And so I think that I know, in December 2022, there was actually a fatality. In July of 2023, there was another fatality, and in between there, I couldn't find the other one, but I remember that there were a total of 3 at that intersection between Lehigh and Somerset on North Broad Street. And so, to the best of my knowledge and what I can visually see, there's been no traffic calming efforts on that particular block. So I'm wondering, is there a plan? Have we looked at that? Is this one of the targeted blocks that we're going to be working on to have that addressed?
Thank you for your question. I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Commissioner Montanez.
Thank you.
You couldn't ask me this when I was over there.
You're putting speed bumps down, Rich?
Good morning, Council President. So Broad and Lehigh is actually Broad Street, to be specifically State Route 611 is one of the ones we are reviewing to put speed cameras in as part of the 5 additional corridors that the city of Philadelphia, being a Class 1 city, can add to its repertoire.
So-
We're also looking to do some center line hardening on Broad Street, which will be actually putting in concrete down the center lines and doing we're looking at other additional traffic calming devices.
So I would just say that speed cameras are not going to slow traffic, but they're going to ticket people. But if you're a reckless driver, you're going to take a shot to make that light, which a lot of people, that's what they're trying to do, to hurry up and get across the light. But the problem is when you hit the intersection, you literally cannot see until you're over sort of like a hump. And so I would just urge that the measures really have to include something that's going to slow traffic down, like we have to slow traffic down, because otherwise, you don't have time to react if you see something. You shouldn't be speeding, but if you are speeding, you don't have reaction time, is my opinion. And I'm no traffic engineer, but it just seems very,
We will look at it at the Streets Department, along with the Transportation Infrastructure Group, are looking at that area, and we're calling it Temple to Temple. So we have a concentrated area of crashes, Temple Hospital and Temple University, and so therefore the goal is to make that whole corridor safe.
Thank you very much. So I'm looking forward to seeing some improvements there. Pedestrian lighting. I know we've talked a lot about the street lights and LED lighting, but can we talk about pedestrian lighting and the difference being that pedestrian lighting is closer, it's not like the high overhanging, overarching, lighting that we're used to. It's sort of like a lamppost kind of thing. Can we talk about how that's going to be integrated into the Streets Department's plan to address LED lighting and provide more lighting, particularly in unsafe areas?
Thank you for your question. Currently, under the Street Lighting Improvement Project, we are actively looking at all of the street lights in the city of Philadelphia. We are converting existing high-pressure sodium to the LED. Depending on the funding, we will then look into, is it capital investment to install the pedestrian scale lights in the roadway? And in the past, we've only installed the pedestrian scale lights in residential developments and along commercial corridors. So if funding is available, we can then look into the potential of adding pedestrian scale. But at the moment, we're in a conversion phase.
Okay, so do you have any sense of what the cost would be, or what the plans would be? I guess what I'm asking is there a plan in place? And if not, that's okay, but can we get a plan in place? Because it sounds like we're kind of starting from scratch a little bit around.
We have plans, but they're not physical plans like on paper. We have, we definitely talk internally about what the need is and what we should do, but an active set of plans that have the drawings of where the lights will actually be installed, we do not have those.
Okay. Mr. President, I know my time is up and I'll come back for the second round, but I did want to add while we're on this topic one other thing, which is that in some neighborhoods you see, like in my district in Chestnut Hill, I know in Councilman Phillips' area on Vernon Road, you have, in some places here in Center City, you have like the tree lighting, which is very, attractive. It adds additional lighting. It brightens up a commercial corridor. And I'm asking if that could be something also incorporated with the pedestrian lighting, lamp post sort of things, just to not only provide more lighting and make it safer, but also make the area more attractive. We would like to see something like that in a proposal in the future. So thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. We will now officially go into our second round. I had a question for Fleet, Mr. Rosati. In terms of clean and green cars, I know we have some hybrids now. What are we doing for the future in terms of, as time goes along? I remember having this conversation in the past that it may be harder for the bigger, like trash trucks and so forth, right, to go totally electric vehicles, but some of the smaller fleet vehicles, what are we looking at in the future in terms of totally transferring from gas powered to electric vehicles? And then also, what are we doing in terms of EV stations, right, as a city, in terms of providing more EV stations for individuals who have electric vehicles? And it's such an issue so much that people actually getting in brawls at EV stations, just waiting to use another EV station to power up their car. And so I guess you gotta take care of home first. What are we doing with our own fleet? And then making that transition to be a more carbon neutral city.
I can talk about that if you want. Thank you, Council President. As far as the plan for deploying electric vehicles and alternative fuel vehicles, we've done pretty good over the past 10 years. We have, currently this morning I ran a report, we have about 1,000 alternative fuel vehicles.
Good.
We have 30 compressed natural gas trash trucks, about 700 hybrid electric vehicles, and a little over 300 battery electric vehicles, BEVs. So we're doing really good with that. We're pumping less fuel. You know, when we look at our reports from how much fuel we pumped 5 years ago till now, it's making an impact.
Good.
Heavy equipment, I'm not a big fan of trying to replace heavy equipment with fully electric vehicles because it's just I haven't seen it working anywhere.
Yeah, I was
you know, I've checked with New York and some other big cities. Yeah. They've tried it. It's
my focus is mainly on the smaller fleets. I have that conversation in the past, and some of the experts say the same thing as you said.
So the smaller vehicles, we're trying to go with cars and light trucks. We're replacing them with battery electric or HEVs, depending on the application, depending on the mission of the vehicle. Naturally, it would be challenging to give the police a fully electric vehicle right now. You know, we're going to try and get them a few patrol cars to try out. But
how many EV stations do we have?
We have about 110 of our own. You know, initially when we first started doing this about 10 years ago, I would purchase an electric vehicle. We would replace a legacy vehicle, a gas-powered vehicle with that vehicle, a fully electric vehicle, and we would give the operating department a charging station. They would install the charging station, and that vehicle would live and work in the city just fine. The EVs are living and working in the city just fine. Philadelphia is no different than any other major city. We have infrastructure challenges. The vehicles are being built and deployed, and there's infrastructure issues. So, you know, out of the 300 vehicles that we have charging stations for about half. But in order to move forward and implement the Clean Fleet Plan, and to take advantage of all the electric vehicles that were being built quickly, they were being built quicker than gas-powered vehicles. So we wanted to take advantage of that. So we did double the fleet size, and I explored fast charging at a public charging vendor. And we've had challenges with that, but it's a temporary solution. We're building out fast charging of our own, municipal fast charging of our own, and we will eventually work our way, wean ourselves off of the public charging.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Rosati. And any way we can be supportive of those efforts, let us know. Mike Carroll?
I just wanted to comment on maybe the second half of your question. And first, really commend Commissioner Rosati for being extremely proactive in moving forward on this. It really meets our sustainability goals in a very meaningful way. But as his response in your question alludes to, there's a larger ecosystem of charging that we need to build in the city, and private companies need to be a part of that as well, and also our partners. And I just wanted to celebrate the fact that it was just over a week ago that we were announced for the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program in partnership with the Philadelphia Parking Authority, just shy of $1 million to implement electric vehicle charging at one of their facilities. So we want to scale that up. And the plan that PennDOT and the federal government have been working on is very much focused on travel between cities. And so they're trying to locate the funding that they put out there near interstates and interchanges, and we want to figure out how we can spread that out throughout the rest of the city, but that's a work in progress, and that's going to be a focus.
All right, thank you, Mike, and I appreciate you for saying that. I'm not sure who I had the conversation with in the past, but yeah, I was also informed how the interstate on the highway plays a major role in terms of these EV vehicles, because obviously you don't want to be in the middle of the road, no charging station, and you're stuck. And so, but you know, as we continue to move forward, we want to be supportive so we can lead on this issue. And we have our chair, I think he just stepped out of transportation, public utilities, as well as I know Councilmember Nina Mine is doing a hearing around how do we upscale EV stations here in the city of Philadelphia. And so, last question, and I'm relax my time back to the members. Commissioner Del Rossi, very, very important issue to members of council. How will we move forward on street renaming signs? It's one of the things that we engage in with our constituents, and it was a policy maybe proposed that some way, somehow, the council members have to pay for signs to put up, which now is the budget opportunity for us to request to make sure that's a part of the actual budget process, because a lot of these families that we're actually honoring, they can't come out $50, $60 a sign, and so we try to make sure we limit at least 2 per family, but we're not going to ask the family who, you know, depending on the circumstance, they lost a loved one to come out their pocket. So we would think that would be a part of the actual budget process, as well as we know that there's a lot of manpower that goes into putting up these street signs. And so under the last regime, we would call Carlton Williams all day, every day, last minute trying to address this issue. And he said, well, in terms of manpower, councilman at that time, you know, it's kind of tough on us. So now we're both in new positions, and so you're the new commissioner moving forward. Just want to get an update on where we're at, any need of support, because I think it's something near and dear to all the members, rather as district members or district members, and at large, with the support of district members.
We can definitely look at that policy. I was out on the street one of those nights right before,
Yes, yes.
making sure the signs were up there, so I worked with Director Williams in the past on that. It has evolved over time, but we can definitely look at the policy and, you know, make it as efficient and best as we possibly can.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
it's a customized sign, so it does take a
Yes.
little bit more time, but we can look at it.
We just want to be supportive to this process before the budget passes. And so to the whole team that's responsible for putting up them street signs, we just want to say thank you. We know it's very, very tedious. Sometimes you make it a last minute because we might have got a title not a part of it, or an extra letter, or they might want way versus Ave or a place. And y'all will pick up that phone call sometime the night before and accommodate us, so it does not go unappreciated. And so I just want to say that. I know for me, y'all saved me a couple times. And just to reiterate, so you'll know, especially when you honor someone who lost a loved one, and the family members, you know, they may see the initial and say, well, it should say something versus something else, right? And to help us kind of help them deal with the coping of losing that loved one that we're actually honoring, right? Y'all have always stepped up to the plate and been very, very patient with us and said, you know what, let's try to figure this out. And so just wanted to personally say thank you, and we want to move that process forward. And so looking forward to Frankie Beverly Way. Anyway, with that being said, the chair recognizes Councilmember Rue Landau, second round.
Thank you. First of all, I'm playing with the Philly Street Light Improvement map right now. Appreciate you for letting us know about this. I guess I want to piggyback on a couple of things, including, let's start with Councilman Young's questions. You know, the city's been working with, at least in the past administration, I think it started with Councilman Nutter too, a national organization called GARE, which is the Government Alliance for Race and Equity. And one of the easiest things they talked about, it started, I think, in Oakland, was understanding that street lighting is an equity issue, and that where they didn't have street lights, they had high crime, and where they did have street lights, they didn't, and they just had to start lighting the places that weren't lit. So I just started to play with the map, but I really do hope that we are highlighting and focusing on the places that need the streetlights first. But I also have to say, there's plenty of places where people really don't like that bright white light. And I'm hearing it all the time. And I know you have the ability to dim them. Can you put in the more yellow bulbs and not make them so bright white? And if you cannot do that, how do we get them dimmed in places where they want them dimmed?
If you send us the locations, we could look at it because we do have the ability to control the lights.
Can you put in the yellow street lights instead of the bright white?
With the LEDs, it's a little bit different, and the color it was actually a survey on the color, so majority of the people selected the color that we're using. We can definitely look into the areas and we can get back to you.
Okay, my wife did not take that survey. She hates the bright white lights. So, okay,
I could go either way.
The second thing I wanted to say was your Street Smart PHL. I've also tried it. Does not work well on a mobile app, so I'll wait to see what happens when I get to a desktop. But I wanted to see I'm the head of the Information and Technology Committee, and wanted to see the coordination of all of these projects that were happening at one time. At least what I saw, and it didn't pull up the data, it looked like you could see more of what happened, not what's going to happen, and also didn't easily let you see it by, you can put in your block, for example, and it'll show you your neighborhood, and maybe I would love to work with you on making this more user-friendly. And then the last three things. Have we thought about creating a truck parking lot where we charge the companies a lot of money to park there, don't allow them to idle? I'm also sure there must be a small hotel chain around here which wouldn't mind putting up a hotel too. Why don't we just make a truck parking lot?
Thank you for your question. I'm going to turn that over to Deputy Commissioner Montanez. We worked on something similar.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Council. So the city has done studies to determine where we could put parking lots. We're also trying to determine what kind of partnership, because obviously the trash has to get picked up, facilities have to be there, and we conducted a nationwide study. For example, in the New Jersey Turnpike, the truck parking lot that's close to New York has bathroom facilities and all that. So it would be to provide those amenities there. What I can say is in council districts where we have gone in strongly after trucks, Councilmember Driscoll's being one, the private side has actually responded by providing 3 private parking lots that the city did not provide any funding, any land, or anything to. They have gasoline, they have private security, they got cameras and lighting. So it seems to be that the private side is responding a lot faster to us because of the area we would need to provide something like this.
Okay, thank you for that. If I could get the Commissioner Del Rossi back 2 more, please. I want to make sure that I'm clear on one thing. I forgot, I needed to clear something up. Did you say we try to fill potholes in 3 to 4 days, but we repave in 30 days? Those are the aspiration goals or no?
Ditches were 30 days. They are the larger holes that, it's the larger holes. The potholes itself, the smaller ones that are just in the tire tracks, they're within 3 days. The larger ditches that could be from utilities or things of that nature are within 30.
Okay, wanted to be clear. And then, come on, one more.
I gotta go to my next member. The chair recognizes Councilman Nicholas O'Rourke. Y'all won't jump me after this hearing, so I'm staying on schedule. Nicholas O'Rourke, member.
Thank you, Council President. My questions are for public property. Howdy do. I know this administration is championing the return to work policy, and post-pandemic, many city workers will be returning to work downtown. How is that rollout happening?
Are we talking about space?
Say it one more time.
Are we talking about space requirements?
No, just like how is the rollout of the return to work policy taking? How's it going? How's it happening?
What's it?
Excuse me.
Like how much of our workforce currently has an assigned office space? How's it going?
We're actually working with the MDO's office now to assess all the space that we have and figure out. MDO did hold a team Tuesday to bring some people back to figure out space, but we have a team that's working on assessing all the buildings and areas that space is needed and how much is needed.
Thank you very much. And so they'll be explaining to you how we're making the buildings more accommodating to our growing and changing workforce too. They'll be kind of giving the information back.
Yeah, we will work with whatever and somehow like try to do a building refresh for when people come back to have a little bit more energy.
Okay. It sounds like there's just a lot more that you need to figure out.
And we also are working with the CAO's office on, they're taking the lead on bringing people back and then what space is needed.
Okay, so a lot to be learned there, it's fair to say?
Yeah.
From that point, okay. Then how about this? I'll shift to fleet questions overall. I think that's probably appropriate, yeah.
Can I have a number 2 for fleet? And the reason why, members, Mr. Rosati is currently at this same moment being reappointed by the mayor and had to step out, so we wanted to accommodate her schedule. However, can the number 2 answer the questions of Councilmember O'Rourke, and we will also reinstate your time, Councilmember O'Rourke.
Thank you, sir.
Good.
Sir, could you state your name and your title for the record, please?
Good afternoon, Council President and members of the City Council. My name is K. Wilson. I'm Deputy Commissioner for Administration, Department of Fleet Services.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is so great to hear about a promising pathway and apprenticeship program that has worked so well for many years. As we continue to chart the path for career-connected learning across many different fields, I had a few questions. What lessons can we learn from the over 30 years of experience that DFS has in running apprenticeship programs? Can you just speak to it?
Yeah. We started the apprenticeship program in 1993. Over the 31 years, we have trained more than 188 students. We hired more than 88 students, 188 students. Mostly we focusing on minority students. 88% of the students who are coming to the internship program are minority. And the successful completion rate is around 70%. And then out of that successful completion, about 40% of the students choose to stay with the fleet. And the rest of the students, after the completion of the program, they choose to go to the college or for higher education or some other field. What we learned through the program is that this gives some motivation to our high school students who are in the technical field. And during this administration, we are promoting this program more by talking to the school district, and they included this program into their school curriculum. And what we're doing right now is that it is a 2-day program on a weekly basis. For the first year students, they're coming on a full day to the program, and they are working with our supervisors and team leaders and learning more and more about. In their second year of the program, they come to full day to our facility and learn on the job more about the automotive training. So with that, once they qualify, they are coming to the city's civil service position, and there is a career growth
for these students. And we have students who graduated and get into the program. Right now, they are like supervisors, team leaders, and we have a district manager right now who come through that program.
Okay. These are great learnings. My time kind of ran out, but I had one more question. No, yay? Okay, thank you very much, Council President.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
We're recessing at 12:30, so we want to get as many people in as possible, unless after y'all want to do a slight third round, we follow up.
No stress.
The ladies have an event at 12:30. They want to go downstairs in a second. The chair recognizes Councilman Isaiah Thomas.
Council President, I'm going to be quick. I just want to revisit our conversation around traffic calming stuff that we were having earlier. While I wait for Mr. Carroll to come up, because I'm going to ask about the speed light cameras, I forgot to thank other staff members in my first round. So I do want to thank all of the people who work in public property, all of the staff members that work in Fleet, especially Fleet. They gave us an earful when we were at an event because apparently we always thank everybody but Fleet. So I hope Fleet is listening. Special shout out to the folks that work in Fleet and all of the city workers who make our job a lot easier, make it possible. I shouldn't even say a lot easier. Harrisburg gave us the ability to put us in a position to be able to add 5 cameras to different roads that we feel like will address some of the traffic issues that we're seeing, whether it's hit and runs, issues with pedestrians, issues with cyclists. We've seen firsthand how cameras can change cultural norms on Roosevelt Boulevard. It did take some time, but Roosevelt Boulevard at one point was the most dangerous road in America. That is no longer the case, and I do give you credit for that. Where do you think would be best? Actually, let me say this. What is your strategy for implementing the 5 cameras that will now, for picking the 5 roads where we will now have some level of technology to be able to enforce motor vehicle codes or motor vehicle code violations?
Thank you for your question. Deputy Managing Director Mike Carroll had to leave. I'm going to turn it over to DC Montanez to answer your question.
Good afternoon, Council member. The way, to the Philadelphia Streets Department, Transportation Infrastructure Group, and PennDOT, along with the Philadelphia Police Department and the Philadelphia Parking Authority, we're all working together to come up with the 5 corridors. We're basing that on crash data and police data that we currently have to come up with the 5 corridors that will be then presented to City Council.
So my only concern about going off of crash data is when I spent some time as the chair of the Streets Committee and we were doing a deep dive when this issue was was at its peak, and we've begun to turn a corner from then, thank God. The speeding issue doesn't always correlate with the car accident issue, according to some of the information that was presented to us. So my question is are we using these cameras to try to address speeding and other motor vehicle code violations? Or are we going to use the cameras to try to address issues in the high injury network that deals more or less with hit and runs and things of that capacity?
So the camera specific by the state law can only ticket for speeding. So, and I do understand your concerns. That is why the Philadelphia Police Department is also part of the task force, because they do know sometimes a lot of other things happening in the corridors that we cannot see in the data.
I'm going to put a shameless plug in for the district council members to be included in that conversation as well, because they know their areas. Thank you, Council President, and thank you all for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. I just want to also add for the Streets Department, if you could provide, and I used to receive this in the past, if you could provide per councilmatic district which streets are going to be paved. And I don't know if the schedule was a part of it, but I used to get a list that said, okay, give me an idea of where the streets are going to be paved in my district. That would be helpful. And also in terms of the lights, I know you said there's a map that you can go on. I think it's great. But if y'all can go a little over and beyond and also give per councilmatic district what the schedule is and the targeted area for the lighting per councilmatic district, that would be very, very helpful for us as well.
We can do that for you.
Thank you very much. The chair recognizes Councilmember Cindy Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. So a couple more questions. bike lanes. So, particularly in Center City, one of the things that's been brought to our attention is that some bike lanes essentially merge you into traffic. So there's one in particular I'm thinking of on Market Street eastbound at 16th Street. And it's a very busy intersection. And it's a very complicated system. Like you kind of have to sit there for a moment and like figure out, okay, what should I do? But some of our bike lanes direct bikers directly into traffic, which I'm sure that's not the intent. Has the streets department looked at that? Are you looking at it? Is it something that you're working on to try to bring more clarity and safety, really?
We work with the Office of Multimodal Planning, which is Director Yemen, and we incorporate the bike lanes, and they look at, so yes, we do.
Okay. And so is there any plan or like an idea as to when we'll be able to expect, some changes that'll make it more safe or?
For the bike routes,
Yes.
I can work with Director Yemen and we can get you something.
Okay, because what I'm asking is, like with this and also with the lighting that I discussed in the last round, if we could have some sort of a sense of, this is something we're working on, this is when we can expect to have some sort of a resolution, this is a target date, because if we don't set targets, if we don't set goals, then it just doesn't happen. It just kind of like floats out there for a very long time.
Thank you. That's something we can work on.
Okay, all right, thank you, I appreciate that. And I think that might be it. Oh, you know what, wait, one other quick question. ADA ramp construction, I know that we spent, like the amount that we were spending on that was considerable. How far along are we with completion of the ADA ramps? I think they were federally mandated, correct? Okay, yeah.
Thank you for your question. I'm going to turn that over to Deputy Commissioner Montanez.
Okay.
Good afternoon. So we do ADA ramps whenever they get triggered, such as paving, utility ditches, or other things that disturb the pedestrian path.
Okay.
The cost right now is $36,000 a corner.
36,000
Per corner.
per corner? Okay. So for the 4 intersections.
I'm sorry, Bridget. I apologize, Councilwoman. She just shocked me.
I was trying not to act as surprised as well, like, oh my goodness. No, but it's considerable.
This is
And
why.
it's important, but that's, it's expensive.
This is why we actively we're working with Deputy Commissioner Newman to get future trackers, to get people working. We're also working with the prisons who had they call it brick pointing, but we're trying to find ways we can get people who have the skills to become city workers who can then do this job and not contract out. At $36,000 per corner, whenever we do a traffic signal, the average cost of a traffic signal is $750,000 right now.
Okay, interesting.
One signal.
Thank you, Member Bass. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jamie Gaudier.
Okay, I'm going to be quick. First, we are so excited about the LED street lighting project. When we first embarked on this, I was under the impression that we were starting in the areas that had the most gun violence. So if there could just be some clarity on that and follow up, that would be good. But I also wanted to talk about the issue of how bright the lights are. We've received some complaints, even though people are happy that we're, going through with the project. And so I understand that there are shields that can be installed, but that we don't have many shields at the moment. So can you explain more about the shields and what is needed to ensure that we can put these shields up as soon as they're requested?
Thank you for your question. The house side shields will deflect the light from transferring into the second floor bedrooms. We can order them, so if we have locations, we could definitely look at where the light is spilling into the residential homes. You asked about the areas in which we were installing them?
So wait, first on the shields.
Okay.
Are we going to order them and, and what will be the process and timeline in terms of getting them up?
Deputy Commissioner Montanez just told me we placed an order for 6,000 shields, so they are ordered.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
And then lastly, I just wanted to emphasize the council president's point for Fleet around the charging stations. I believe during the FY23 budget year, we fought for several $1 million to get electric vehicles to L&I inspectors. We had heard that one of the things making the job unattractive was that the inspectors had to use their own personal vehicles. So we went forward with this expense only to find that we don't have charging stations, so enough by far. And so we have the inspectors kind of riding around trying to find stations, waiting in line, which is a bad and inconvenient situation for all of us. So it's imperative that we do move forward to increase our charging station capacity. Thank you, Council President.
You're welcome. See, I ask progressive questions. See? Y'all catch that later on. I have a quick question I want to slide in there before I go to Councilman Rulandow. We have the Neighborhood Preservation Initiative where we're repaving driveways. Will the Streets Department be able to participate and partner in that process? And what do you think that will look like in the future?
Thank you, Council President, for your question. The Streets Department is actively meeting with the group, Janae, and we are looking at the list of driveways that they requested. So once we determine the list, we will get back to them.
All right, thank you very much. And any budgetary concerns or conversations, let me know. I know the mayor's neighborhood, like that 9th Councilmanic District, right, is one of the key areas that have a significant driveway issue, and then also in deep parts of South Philadelphia, we also have residents who have concerns regarding their driveways as well. See, Carlton, we do have driveways in South Philly, so not just in the Northwest, but on a more serious note, we would like to continue that dialogue as we go through this budgetary process to see how we can continue those efforts. The chair recognizes Councilman Rulandow.
We have to be outside in 5 minutes, so I'll be very quick, and some will be statement-y, question-y things. But while we're looking at driveways, I really think we need to look at assisting low-income homeowners with sidewalks outside. I've been saying this. It's going to be the last to-do list thing on their list, and it is an issue that affects people with disabilities and all sorts of other folks. So let's talk about that. I love bike lanes. I want more. I want them protected. And then I wanted to ask about the LEED gold buildings, that we're trying to take our municipal buildings that are so many issues and turn them into actually healthy, energy efficient places for us. Can you talk about that a little bit in 2 minutes?
In 2 minutes. Thank you, Councilmember. The Capital Projects Office, they are striving to any new building that we build is a LEED certified. Take an example, PPSB at 400 North Broad. That was one of our last bigger projects. And our goal is, and I believe still is with capital projects, to make sure we are energy savings and do everything we can to make our buildings LEED. And one goal I was trying to have is to try to at least get a gold star rating for City Hall, one of the oldest buildings. So we're getting there. It's little by little, we're making advancements in the older buildings, but anything newer going forward is we're setting out to be a LEED building.
Thank you.
That's it? All right, thank you. On a serious note, though, because that did come up in my initial conversation about maybe in the next round of MPI, providing support for constituents that need their pavements repaved. And I think right now we don't do it because it's private property, correct? Which I do understand. But maybe if we could find a legal way to address it under MPI 2, if we get the MPI 2, which is the game plan, to provide those families who can't come out of pocket to get their pavements repaved, the same level of support that we're doing individuals who have driveways. Because from my understanding now, under certain circumstances, if a driveway need to be repaved, everybody in the block would have to agree and kind of chip in on the cost, and then they would get an extra bill. So if we can support that type of support for the driveways, then surely we can find a way to support maybe with some income criteria for low-income families, moderate-income families to get their pavements repaved when they're totally not livable. I guess I want to say that word. To wrap us up for this session, I want to go back to the chair of Streets, Councilmember Jay Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. Quick question on city surveys. In the 5-year plan, it says that you have a goal to do, 30 or 30-day turnaround, or 32-day turnaround was the target, but at FY23, the actual turnaround time was 30 days. Can we explain why we are increasing the time for the response time for the survey district?
Thank you, Council President. So city surveys, it's one of the difficulties we are having hiring. We are training people internally and bringing them up, future trackers. The City of Philadelphia Streets Department, within the City of Philadelphia, there are 13 licensed surveyors. 8 of them work for the Streets Department. And so it is a very hard thing to do. The other thing is that we lose them to private industry. Their salaries, they increase their salaries by $40,000, $50,000 once they get their license and leave the city.
Are there any incentives we can think of to try to keep those folks in-house with the city? Because it seems like that's the theme of a lot of our city agencies is that, we train them up and then they go out to the county or to the private sector. Like, what can we do to try to retain some of those employees here in the city?
We're willing to discuss with your office any ideas you guys have to help us retain staff, and pretty sure all the commissioners up here would echo that we do want to keep our staffers as long as we can.
All right. And my last question, just for this session, 22nd and Market, there's a bike lane there that was installed, two-way bike lane, took away traffic lane, parking lane. The people in that community hate it. This is what I'm told, right? I don't live there, but I do know that the folks that my committee people who live around there, they do not like that. It's supposed to be a pilot. Can we tell us how long this pilot will be in place, or can you provide me a little bit more detail on that?
So Market Street was installed by PennDOT, and it is one of the 10 approved bike lane facilities that PennDOT allow the city to install. And so we can discuss with your office to see if you'd like to make some changes on that. But it was to improve ridership of bikes and to try to reduce the carbon emissions in the city.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Good.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
One more question on crossing guards. Can you just tell us a little bit about the efforts to recruit and retain crossing guards in our city? I do know our office has been getting a lot of calls about the need for more crossing guards in certain areas. We've asked community members to start volunteering as crossing guards in certain areas, but can we just talk to the council about what more is needed on our end? Is it budgetary? Is it a budget issue? Is it a manpower issue? Can you describe to us what the issue is with crossing guards?
Thanks for the question, council member. So what we're doing to help facilitate hiring for crossing guards is we started a new process called hiring fairs. So not the same as career fairs. What we'll do is we'll recruit for the crossing guards and have them come in every 2 months. And we go through the process of everything they need to do with their background clearances, of which there's 3 of them. We help facilitate them getting in the website to start the clearance process. We give them an orientation of what the work is actually going to be so that they have a realistic sort of time and example of what they're going to be doing. And we let them know what the salary rate is, schedule, everything like that. We find that we're actually able to net more individuals by doing that, and we have that process, that hiring fair process lined up with when OHR establishes the civil service list that we can hire from. So it's sort of at a cadence of every 2 months that we're doing that, and we've hired 144 individuals so far just this fiscal year.
Thank you. Be good, Mr. Justice.
That's it, Mr. Chairman?
I got a couple more, but you know, you let me go.
No, we're going to wrap up.
Thank you.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Yeah, on the same subject, several years ago, some frustrated neighbors who were trying to become crossing guards and were having difficulty doing this when the police department, it was either police department or school district when they were working, one back and forth with the other. But it was a fairly simple concept and could never get anybody to pay attention to it. And that is, if you're running a school, you have substitutes. Some use agencies, some use different agencies, or more than one, and some schools just do it directly. But it gets done. The teacher who wants to be a sub goes online, sees when the opening is going to occur, when somebody's not going to be there. Sometimes it's early in the morning, sometimes it's late at night for the next day. So there's a list of subs. And what was suggested by several people that wanted to be crossing guards and were having trouble was, why not start with a pool of subs? Because first of all, you'll know if they're any good. They come out, if they're punctual, if they are good at what they do. And when an opening occurs, just pop them in, to your rotation. But everything's done ahead of time, and you get to see where, I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but it's better than having a police car where there are enough cars to put police on the corner, which didn't used to be the case, but they have to leave if they get a call, and kind of defeats the purpose often. So also, a police officer usually has to stay in the car, so they're just kind of being a presence there, as opposed to the crossing guard that's actually out on the, with boots on the ground. If you think about that, I'd appreciate it. I think it makes sense. Usually the common sense comes from the little people, that experience it, and it might be worth
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember. We're happy to consider any ideas that would get us more school crossing guards.
Thank you. We want to thank everybody for your testimony. We look forward as a body to continue working with you as we move the city of Philadelphia forward, and also to make sure we are the safest, cleanest, greenest city in the city with economic opportunity for everyone. This hearing will now be at ease until 1:30. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council President.